What if the devil was never truly defeated, just waiting for his moment to rise again? A stolen relic, a hidden prophecy, and a woman unknowingly carrying the key to Lucifer's return. As ancient forces awaken, time is running out. Will she escape before the world falls into darkness? Or is it already too late? Eons ago, Lucifer defied the divine order and sought to overthrow the Almighty. As punishment, he was cast out of the celestial realm, plummeting into the abyss of hell. Upon his arrival, Archangel Michael bound him to an immovable stone, sealing the imprisonment with his own sword. Before Michael departed, Lucifer vowed that one day he would rise as God's equal. As centuries passed, Lucifer assembled a legion of devoted demons, orchestrating his return, while his mortal followers erected a grand fortress around the chasm of his fall, awaiting the day of his resurgence. The year is now 2022. In the heart of Italy, art historian Laura pursues her studies, driven by the desire to explore a controversial theory. She believes the great Italian masters did not truly subscribe to the angelic and demonic figures they depicted in their art. However, her professor disapproves, deeming her thesis an affront to Italy's cultural legacy. As if academic rejection weren't enough, the professor takes things further by making an inappropriate proposition in his apartment. Disgusted, Laura flees his presence. Wandering through the ancient streets, she encounters Father Marconi, a priest who, upon hearing of her interests, grants her an exclusive pass to view the exhibitions in his cathedral. Among these treasures is the revered Shroud of Turin, said to contain the blood of Christ from his crucifixion. Marconi gives Laura a personal tour, culminating in the unveiling of a newly acquired masterpiece, a sculpture of Michael's triumph over Lucifer. Their discussion delves into the nature of evil, but eventually, Marconi leaves her to her work, sketching the statue for her research. As Laura focuses on her drawings, a whisper of her name seems to echo through the empty space. Dismissing it as mere imagination, she continues until a raven flutters past the window, unsettling her once more. Meanwhile, unseen by all, a mysterious woman named Liz infiltrates the cathedral, avoiding security cameras and slipping through a forbidden corridor. Observing Laura from the shadows, Liz halts abruptly when she notices an impossible sight: the head of Lucifer's statue subtly shifting. Laura senses an eerie presence, but reassures herself it's nothing. However, as she turns away, Liz swiftly approaches the statue and, in a single calculated move, wrenches Michael's sword from its grasp before vanishing into the corridors. Moments later, a security guard spots Laura, mistaking her for an intruder. She quickly proves her authorized access, and he leaves, unaware of the theft that has just taken place. As Laura gathers her belongings to leave, the weight of Michael's missing sword seems to press upon her instincts, though she cannot discern what is different. The cathedral doors have already been locked for the night, so she searches for an alternate exit. But upon returning to the corridor, she is met with a horrifying sight: Liz, mercilessly wielding the stolen blade against the guard, unaliving the guard. Terror-stricken, Laura flees, seeking refuge in a confessional booth. From her hiding place, she watches in horror as Liz disables the security systems using the deceased guard's eyes and then shatters the protective glass encasing the shroud. Marconi rushes in to intervene, but Liz silences him with a swift pierce. As she prepares to leave, her reinforcements arrive, securing the stolen relic. But just as they are about to depart, Liz catches sight of Laura in the booth and commands her men to capture her. With the theft complete, Marconi, barely clinging to life, uses his last breath to pray, invoking Michael to take control of his body and put an end to Lucifer's plan. In an instant, the Archangel descends, inhabiting Marconi's form. However, his divine strength is too overwhelming for human flesh, forcing him to move with caution to avoid destroying the body he now inhabits. Elsewhere, an elite audience of wealthy patrons marvels as a young prodigy performs on the violin. Dr. Laurent, a brilliant but twisted scientist, stands before them, revealing that the child is no ordinary musician. He is a clone of Antonio Vivaldi, part of a series of historical figures resurrected through genetic reconstruction.
The Evening Guest pièce de résistance?
A clone of Michelangelo, now available to the highest bidder. Liz interrupts the proceedings, delivering news of the shroud's acquisition. Excitement ripples through the room. Laurent has long anticipated this moment. With Christ's preserved blood, he can attempt the impossible, the cloning of Jesus himself. Meanwhile, Laura, now imprisoned in a glass chamber alongside 3 other women, watches in despair. One woman sobs uncontrollably, but Laura calms her with gentle words, encouraging unity in their grim predicament. Before any plan can be formed, nurses arrive to conduct medical examinations, marking Laura as a priority subject. Back at the cathedral, Michael, still in Marconi's body, scours security footage, his presence leaving the priests bewildered at their fallen brother's inexplicable return. Ignoring their inquiries, Michael demands to know the whereabouts of Cardinal Vincini, the former protector of the Shroud. Once a revered guardian, Vincini's warnings of demonic resurgence were dismissed as senility, leading to his isolation in an asylum. Determined to uncover the truth, Michael retrieves Laura's credentials from the footage and ensures the priests remain silent about his existence before leaving in Marconi's car. Unbeknownst to him, a raven follows closely behind. As the cloning process advances in the villa, Michael arrives at the asylum, where Vincini, paranoid and armed, recognizes him as more than human. Trust is established when Vincini senses the celestial force within him. He reveals the villa's secret purpose. It was built around the chasm of Lucifer's fall, and the asylum itself was once a watchtower for those who feared his return. The scriptures speak of Lucifer's need for 2 conduits, one of the heavens, one of the earth. The first is Liz, and the second is the beast of the ground. For years, children were offered as vessels, but none could withstand possession. This is why the shroud was stolen. Lucifer seeks to inhabit the only body strong enough to contain him, a clone of Jesus. Disgusted, Michael vows to put an end to the abomination. Vincini, though old and frail, offers his aid, driving Michael toward the villa's foothills. But as Michael nears the accursed grounds, his presence disrupts the ancient bindings, weakening Lucifer's chains. Inside the villa, Laura and her fellow captives desperately attempt to break free while reflecting on their pasts. It is revealed that Laura has suffered profound loss, her husband and child taken from her long ago. Meanwhile, Lauren's testing confirms her genetic compatibility, accelerating the experiment. Laura and another woman, Brenda, are chosen for the final ritual. Clad in ceremonial robes, they are brought before Lucifer's followers and chained to a pillar. Soon, they are lowered into the chasm itself, where demons emerge from the darkness. The infernal beings restrain them as Lucifer's essence begins its transfer. Brenda, unable to endure the possession, perishes instantly. But when Lucifer enters Laura, she does not falter. Her body withstands the transformation. Emerging from the abyss, she is heralded as the chosen one. Liz, triumphant, welcomes her into a sealed glass chamber, announcing that within her now dwells something greater than Jesus. As the ritual nears completion, Michael infiltrates the villa, his path marked by violence and determination. Despite taking a bullet to the shoulder, he fights his way through, disguising himself to evade capture. Reaching the laboratory, he retrieves the stolen shroud before turning to the security feeds, his final objective, Laura. At that instant, Laurent steps into the laboratory, but before he can react, Michael shoves him against a table, demanding answers. Unfazed, Laurent offers only a cryptic response. He serves a cause known as a new dawn. Unwilling to waste time, Michael twists open the gas canisters and ignites a flare, setting off an explosion that engulfs the lab in flames, creating a barrier between himself and the advancing security team. As alarms echo through the facility, Laura pleads with the attending nurse to release her, but he remains resolute, refusing to let her leave the cell. Moments later, Michael bursts into the room, swiftly knocking the nurse unconscious. Overwhelmed with emotion, Laura embraces him, momentarily believing Marconi has survived. However, Her relief is short-lived when Michael is distracted by a chilling voice. Lucifer speaks directly into his mind, taunting him about newfound freedom. Michael is consumed with rage, unable to comprehend how the seal confining Lucifer was broken. Witnessing his fury, Laura grows suspicious, fearing that he may be aligned with the enemy. Panicked, she bolts, but Michael catches up, dragging her into a secluded room before the guards can locate them. Terrified and uncertain, Laura seizes Michael's weapon, pointing it at him with trembling hands. He manages to calm her, convincing her of his loyalty as he carefully tends to his bullet wound. Only then does she reveal the horrors inflicted upon her, prompting Michael to vow her protection. As they attempt to escape, Liz spots them and dispatches her enforcers, though she unexpectedly unalived one of them when he recklessly aims at Laura. She must not be harmed. Navigating through a cave tunnel, Michael and Laura press forward, but her condition rapidly deteriorates. The child inside her is growing at an unnatural rate. Their delay allows a monstrous entity to track them down. Michael fights fiercely, his combat skills momentarily giving him the upper hand, but his mortal form begins to fail him. The beast overpowers him just as Liz arrives with her forces, capturing Laura once more. Holding the child's safety over their heads, she ensures Michael remains powerless to intervene. She coldly reminds Laura that the priest is long dead, and now the angel must perish as well. Laura is dragged back to confinement, bound to the bed, while Michael is chained in a chamber overlooking the well. Summoning his remaining strength, he shatters the chains using his divine abilities, though the effort leaves him weak. He drags himself toward the well's edge and plunges into the abyss just before the beast can seize him. Landing in the depths of hell, Michael is immediately assaulted by a demonic entity, though he manages to fend it off. As he regains his bearings, he searches frantically for a sacred relic, only to find that Lucifer's sword is missing. More demons close in, using that very weapon to imprison Michael, trapping him in the same manner he once sealed Lucifer. Meanwhile, Laura's pregnancy accelerates beyond human limits. Liz, watching over her, makes a chilling declaration. This child will replace the one she lost. But Laura refuses to acknowledge it as the same. During an ultrasound, Laura watches in horror as the baby appears to crawl out of the screen and roar at her. She jolts awake, realizing it was only a vision. Liz, seated beside her, demands to know whether Lucifer speaks to her. When Laura remains silent, Liz strikes her, warning her that she must comply until the child is born. Deep within the underworld, a group of lost children stumbles upon Michael. These are the failed sacrifices, souls abandoned in hell, banding together to survive. Michael promises to take them home, but only if they can locate a sacred weapon. They hesitate, wary of trusting an angel when Lucifer himself was once one. Before trust can be gained, demons descend upon them, capturing several of the children while Michael watches in helpless fury. In the confinement chamber, Lucifer's essence temporarily departs from Laura's unborn child and infiltrates her consciousness, whispering an offer. If she welcomes him, he will grant her vengeance against those who destroyed her family and against Liz, whom she despises. Yielding to temptation, Laura surrenders, dreaming of holding the child and embracing him as her own. Liz, observing closely, grows uneasy at Laura's strengthening bond with the entity. When a nurse arrives to conduct tests, Laura, now wielding dark powers, extinguishes the lights and eliminates the nurse with a thought. She steps into the hallway and brutally attacks another, only to snap back to her senses, horrified by her actions. Overcome with fear, she resolves to destroy the child before it is too late. Lucifer's voice echoes in her mind, pleading for mercy, calling her mother. Ignoring him, she locks herself in a janitor's closet and attempts to ingest a lethal dose of chlorine, fighting against Lucifer's influence. As Laura writhes in agony, Liz bursts through the door, enraged. She orders medical assistance, but before she can leave, Laura, now fully possessed, seizes control, forcing Liz to the ground and vomiting onto her. Lucifer, now speaking through Laura, declares that after the child is born, no one must be left alive. Everyone must perish. In hell, Lucifer manifests briefly to mock Michael's failure, reinforcing the children's belief that Michael is the only one capable of stopping him. The children ultimately retrieve Michael's sacred weapon and present it to him. Reclaiming his divine strength, Michael slaughters the surrounding demons and vows to return for the children. He ascends back to Earth, reclaiming his mortal vessel and securing a vital relic before returning to the main facility. Michael finds Laura encased in a containment pod. He desperately tries to reach her, but Lucifer's voice responds instead. Determined, Michael pushes the pod towards safety, only to be intercepted. As he forces the pod open, Lucifer seizes control, forcing Laura's body upright. With a sinister declaration, he announces the arrival of the child, breaking her water and unleashing a corrosive fluid that burns Michael's flesh. In his weakened state, Michael struggles to escape, but Lucifer restrains him, demanding worship. When Michael refuses, Lucifer drives Laura's clawed fingers into his neck. However, Michael remains defiant. He has deciphered the divine plan. God is allowing this because Lucifer's incarnation within the holy vessel will ultimately imprison him forever. Enraged, Lucifer unleashes a violent fit, rendering Michael unconscious. As Liz and her forces arrive, Lucifer, still within Laura, begs for the child's destruction. Mistaking this for Laura's voice, Liz orders her restrained and taken to the altar. Positioned over the Hellgate, she gives birth, and Liz immediately claims the newborn. The beast opens the well, preparing to cast Laura inside. Outside, Liz presents the child to the cult, proclaiming a baptism in blood. One by one, the beast slaughters every follower, doctor, and guard. Even Laurent, despite his fleeting hope of survival, meets his end. Michael regains consciousness and escapes, arriving just in time to rescue Laura from the precipice. They join forces for a final confrontation. As Liz attempts to flee with the child, Laura intercepts her, striking her down. Liz pleads for Lucifer's safety, but Michael corrects her. The child is not Lucifer. God had chosen Laura, and she has given birth to the vessel that will imprison Lucifer for eternity. Determined to secure the child's fate, Laura takes the baby and flees to find Vincent while Michael remains behind. The gates of hell are now open, and demons threaten to overrun the world. Michael races to the well, sealing it just as the beast arrives. In a final act, he discovers Liz's stockpile of explosives and triggers them, obliterating the facility and burying the gateway under an avalanche of rubble. In the aftermath, Laura and Vincent take the child to a cathedral, safeguarding him from harm. Michael fulfills his promise, returning to hell to liberate the lost children. Years later, Laura remains in hiding with Vincent, raising the child in secrecy. In the depths of the forest, Liz, still alive, watches from the shadows, whispering for Lucifer. But when the devil attempts to manifest, the child effortlessly absorbs him back into his body, ensuring he remains sealed for eternity. And just like that, the battle between good and evil takes an unexpected turn. Lucifer is trapped once more, but for how long? The forces that sought his return are still out there, waiting, watching, planning. Could this be the final chapter? Or is it just the beginning of something far more sinister? Drop your theories in the comments. What do you think happens next? And if you love deep dives into dark and mysterious stories, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. You won't want to miss what's coming next.